No. 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 No, it's still black and white. People want color.
Pong didn't have color.
So, let's do something better.
It can't do color.
Says who? Well, okay, you refuse to do anything that vaguely escapes your comfort zone.
You're not even my boss.
Well, I damn sure should be.
Do you think that Steve is being unreasonable? And what is it called when someone is too honest? Well, join us on our latest Cinephile episode to find out, and be sure to visit our Funday website for more. What's up, movie fans? I'm Wade, your Cinephile host. Jobs is a 2013 American biographical drama film based on the life of Steve Jobs, from 1974 while a student at Reed College to the introduction of the iPod in 2001. Steve Jobs is portrayed by Ashton Kutcher, with Josh Gad as Apple Computer's co-founder, Steve Wozniak. The story begins with middle-aged Steve Jobs at the Apple Town Hall meeting.
If I do say so myself, it's insanely cool. It's a music player. It's 1,000 songs in your pocket. I'd like to introduce you to the iPod.
The story flashes back to Reed College in 1974. The high tuition forces Steve to drop out, but the dean allows him to sit in on classes. Later, Steve meets with his friend Daniel, and they spend time in India being enlightened. 2 years later, Steve is back in California. And while working at Atari, Steve is critical of his coworkers and difficult to work with. So his boss tasks him with a solo project to redevelop an arcade video game, which he ends up having Woz, a friend of his, build it for him. The job is a great success, but Steve inadequately distributes the salary for the game development between Woz and himself. Steve then discovers a revolutionary machine that Woz is building that would later be known as the Apple I, which he expresses interest in commercializing, but Woz didn't think it a big deal.
Look, this is freedom. This is freedom to create and to do and to build and as artists, as individuals.
Look, you're overreacting. Even if you were developing this for freaks like us, and I doubt you are, nobody wants to buy a computer. Nobody.
How does somebody know what they want if they've never even seen it?
Huh?
Steve convinces Woz to present the prototype at the Homebrew Computer Club. On their way there, Steve suggests to name it Apple Computer. Woz demonstrates the Apple I to a bored audience, and it seemed like no one was interested. But later, Steve is approached by store owner Paul Terrell, who invites him to talk business. The next day, he goes to Paul's store and negotiates a business deal with him, promising to deliver 50 units within 60 days. Steve and Woz then set up shop in Steve's family garage and begin working. Steve also recruits Daniel, fellow engineer Bill Fernandez, and young neighbor Chris to the Apple team. After working tirelessly, they manage to complete the order and deliver it to Terrell. But to their surprise, he is disappointed.
Listen, boys, you sold me on a home computer. That's a keyboard and monitor. This is a board. Now, I'm sure this makes a very capable starter kit, but the everyday person, the kind of person that's not an engineer or in a computer club like you, they're not going to know what the hell this is. The average Joe doesn't want to build their own computer. They just want to buy it. They want to take it out of the box, plug it in, and have it work. Steve, are you listening to me?
Everything Terrell said inspired Steve to begin conceptualizing a second model. He convinces Terrell to sell the boards with his own computer, and later hires Rod Holt to redesign the power supply for what will be called the Apple II. Steve then makes multiple phone calls in hopes to find an investor. Mike Harkulula, a venture capitalist, noticed Steve and Woz's work and offers to join Apple. At the 1977 West Coast Computer Fair, Steve introduces the Apple II.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Steve Jobs. When I founded this company, I had one goal in mind, and that was to do what nobody else considered possible, to put the power and the beauty of the world's most advanced technology in the hands and homes of people just like you and me. And I can promise you that after today, you will never look at computers the same way again. So I am proud to introduce to you and the world the future of personal computing, the revolutionary Apple II.
It is a remarkable success. Upon learning his high school girlfriend, Chris Ann, is pregnant, Steve ends their relationship. She later gives birth to a baby girl named Lisa, but Steve denies it to be his child. And unfortunately, Apple's success eventually also caused Steve to distance himself from his friends. He even excluded some of the original Apple I team members from receiving any Apple stocks because he saw them as expendable.
Why'd you do it?
The company outgrew them. They're not management. They're not project leads. It's not my job to be nice to people. It's my job to make them better. They don't deserve it.
Then who the hell does?
As Steve's behavior grows more erratic, the board members moved him from the Apple Lisa development team to the Macintosh group, hoping he would be more manageable. Despite this change, his perfectionist behavior doesn't. Forces out Jeff Raskin, the original Macintosh group leader, who lacked motivation, and takes lead himself. He then begins recruiting other members to join the Macintosh team.
We have an opportunity to build a revolutionary machine. And in your life, you only get to do so many things. And right now, we've chosen to do this. So let's make it great.
The team completes the Macintosh, and Steve is very pleased, but the board members are not happy, so they look to recruit a new CEO to help run the company. Steve agrees, but only if they are able to recruit the talented John Scully, president of Pepsi. Very quickly, they welcome him on board. They introduced the Macintosh with great fanfare in 1984, including a high-budget television commercial that seemed to have great potential. One night, late into the evening, Woz approaches Steve to tell him he's decided to leave the company, feeling it has lost its way.
You know, I can still remember when we were just kids, back in your dad's garage. No, we just wanted to create cool toys for people like us. You remember that?
Yeah.
No, it's not about people anymore for you. No, it's about the product. Worst of all, it's about yourself. You're the beginning and end of your own world, Steve. And it's so small.
After Woz gave his heartfelt goodbye, Steve immediately had a sense of loneliness come upon him. And on top of that, the Macintosh is later seen as a failure due to the disproportionately high cost. Steve is convinced that the error is with John, but together with the board members and Mike, Steve is forced out of the company in 1985.
What did you say? Steve. You are your own worst enemy. And this company's.
After being forced out, Steve returns home to where it all began. He breaks down as his father embraces him. Fast forward to 1996, Steve is now married to Laureen, and he has accepted Lisa as his daughter, who now lives with them. He also has a son, Reed, and now Steve is running Next, another company he founded. When Apple buys Next, then CEO Gil Amelio asks Steve to return to Apple as a consultant. Steve accepts and meets Johnny Ive, whose work he becomes interested in, particularly during the design of the iMac and Johnny's passion to reinvent Apple. Soon enough, the board names Steve as the new CEO. He fires Emilio and relieves majority of the board of directors, including Mike. One of the remaining members then say, "What are we going to do now?" And Steve replies, "We're gonna put a dent in the universe."
Here's to the crazy ones. The misfits. The rebels. The troublemakers. The round pegs in the square holes. The ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward.
And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. This is a Steve Jobs quote for the Think Different commercial in 1997. Hope it inspires you. 接下来我们来揭晓今天电影迷贾博士 Jobs 要学什么。Jobs is widely considered to be a genius, but he wasn't the easiest person to work with. His pursuit of creating great products caused him to butt heads with people. Butt heads or bump heads 是非正式的说法，描述与某人发生冲突或是有强烈分歧。Jobs was also known to speak his mind. Speak one's mind. Mind 可以表示想法、见解。从字面上来看 ，speak one's mind 可以理解为说出某人的想法。实际上 ，speak one's mind 可以表示坦率直言。例如 ，I must speak my mind at all times. 在任何时候，我必说出我的想法。最后 ，Jobs can be described as a person who is brutally honest. 贾伯斯可以说是一个粗暴、诚实、实话实说的人。Brutal 有残酷、暴烈的意思，所以在描述某人残酷的诚实时，就可以说 He or she is brutally honest. Well, love him or hate him, if it wasn't for Steve Jobs, we wouldn't have the Apple we know it to be today. Hope you've learned something useful in this episode of Cinephile. You can find more on the Fun Day website. Let's make every day a fun day.
Apple. Excuse me?
Apple.
Apple like the fruit?
The fruit of creation. Apple. It's simple but sophisticated. It comes before Atari in the phone book too.
That is so much better than phaser beam computers.